SquarePants! Hello and welcome to another episode of Badman Reviews, the channel that brings you the most top-of-the-line, cutting-edge, and recent video game reviews on totally new games. Today we're going to be talking about the PS2 game, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. But first, you guys noticed something in my last video that I did not, because I'm a dum-dum duty dum-dum pants. So let's take a look back at that and see if you all can notice this time what I did wrong. Treat it if you know what I mean. So to celebrate, we're going to be talking about 4 of his games specifically. To be point blank, these ones. Starting with Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, as you can tell from the description. But did you notice it? Because my dumb butthead definitely didn't notice it, and it seems like you guys know my life a little bit better than I do, which is kind of sad. You see, in that video, I held up SpongeBob Truth or Square for the Wii as a game that I would be covering in this retrospective. And it turns out that I reviewed this game 4 years ago already. So in lieu of re-reviewing Truth or Square, I'm gonna take all of your comments from the last video and go ahead and review SpongeBob SquarePants Creature from the Krusty Krab, because you guys really want me to play it. I didn't know it existed. I've never heard of it, never played it. It looks good, came out after the movie game. It's the 3D platformer as well. It fits in very well with this retrospective. So with all of that out of the way, let's move on forward into our Battle for Bikini Bottom review. Welcome to Battle for Bikini Bottom, and boy, if you haven't played this, you are in for a great treat. We start off our game with Plankton once again planning for world domination, and Krabby Patties of course, by creating his own robot army, but like usual, due to his incompetence, he forgets to switch the robots over to obey him. I feel like having a switch for that was a bad idea in the first place, but I mean, he went to community college, so who am I to judge? Meanwhile, on the other side of town, our beloved friends SpongeBob and Patrick have been playing with their toy robots, and after becoming bored of them, Patrick makes a wish for real robots to play with instead. And you can see how this ends up. SpongeBob wakes up, learning robots have taken over and destroyed Bikini Bottom. He takes it onto himself to save the city. Before we can continue on though, I really need to take a minute to sing some praises for the animation in this game already. These intro cutscenes actually feel like they could have come from an actual episode of SpongeBob, the way the characters move and act, unlike what gross stuff we saw come from Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Getting into gameplay, we start off with SpongeBob's house as a tutorial, just like Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. But with Battle for Bikini Bottom, you can feel the difference in gameplay right away. Everything feels really good right off the bat. Don't get me wrong, the controls aren't perfect, they still feel weird once in a while, but everything is so much more fleshed out. The ability to control your camera makes platforming so much easier. All the animations of SpongeBob are well designed, and sound effects too are just ripped like right from the TV show, it sounds like, with squeaky footsteps and bubble effects all adding a perfect SpongeBob vibe to the game. Also, for a PS2 game, I am actually blown away that you can mantle objects. Like, that is actually a crazy game design feature for the time this game was released in, especially for a licensed game. After finishing the tutorial, we exit into Bikini Bottom and can start exploring after a brief cutscene with Plankton. We can see off in the distance a few levels to play and the rest of Bikini Bottom that we can explore later. We can also enter Squidward and Patrick's house, which is a nice added touch. And even nicer touch is being able to destroy Squidward's house and getting a reward for that. Take that, you tentacle freak. The first level we get to explore is Jellyfish Fields, and wow, is this beautiful. Just taking a quick glance around, it already resembles the fields from the show so much better, with beautiful vibrant colors and open spaces to explore. Squidward's here as well, and he's offering us a golden spatula, the main collectible of this game, to help him get some of King Jellyfish's jelly to help heal up his wounds. After some exploring, we come across Patrick, who is being tormented by robots. And after saving him, we come to a fantastic surprise this game has for us. the ability to change between characters in the game. Each level has 2 characters you can change between, one being Patrick or Sandy, and both of them have their own abilities and ways of attacking that make them useful in their own ways, making it so one character doesn't seem necessary over the others all the time. Patrick can lift up objects and throw them to hit buttons or enemies, but can't attack in the air unless he has something he can throw, making him good at ground combat or puzzles where buttons need to be pressed down or hit from afar. Sandy, on the other hand, can use her lasso to grab faraway enemies or hover in midair, making her great for traveling across big gaps. And the game does a great job of giving you bus stops to change out your characters when you need them. If there's a puzzle that needs a specific character, they will almost always be a bus stop to change your character nearby, which is fantastic. I can only think of 1 or 2 times I had to really travel to switch characters for a puzzle, and usually the puzzle wasn't necessary to progress the story, it was just for bonus collectibles. There are also boxes scattered around that allow you to fast travel between areas of the map much faster after activating them, and I can only figure work by using your imagination. You may also know from my Spyro videos that I love when a game makes collecting collectibles extremely satisfying. Gems in Spyro and bolts in Ratchet & Clank are great examples of this, and SpongeBob also did a fantastic job. The currency are these small flowers called shiny objects, and what a perfect name because they shine like crazy and are super easy to see. On top of that, they also have a super satisfying sound when collecting them, which is just as important as how they look. Just listen to the sound you get when collecting a huge amount of these items at once.
Ooh, again!
Satisfying, isn't it? All the characters also have great idle dialogue and idle animations, from when SpongeBob gets pulled out of bounds to Patrick peeling himself off the ground after doing a belly flop. There are little details everywhere that really make you laugh at times. Even the NPCs are great, well, except for one. Why does it look like Miss Puff is constantly on some crazy drugs? And I thought maybe that was just her worried face, maybe it'll change in a different level. Nope, she's on some crazy shit 24/7.
You know, maybe we just have to get into Mrs. Puff's mind, understand her a bit better. Get right inside Mrs. Puff. Oh god, nope, too deep, backing out, abort!
Eventually, we make our way to the top of the mountain and have our first boss fight, which is an actual decent fight against King Jellyfish, who we proceed to beat and give his jelly jam to Squidward to end the level. Back in the main hub area, we can now choose between 2 different levels depending how good we did in Jellyfish Fields collecting golden spatulas, which I love. Being able to choose which level you want to play in any order makes for a better player experience. On top of that, I'm pretty sure, I never tested this myself, but if you grinded out a ton of money in Jellyfish Fields, you could theoretically use that money to buy a bunch of spatulas from Mr. Krabs right off the bat and go straight to the first big boss fight, skipping 2 whole worlds in this area if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to, because that would take a whole lot of time to grind that much money out, but to each their own, I guess. I also wanted to point out that no matter where you are in the game, you can look out to the skybox and see everything else around you. You can see later parts of the level, you can see other levels in the background as well. Like in Jellyfish Fields, you can see both the hub area and downtown Bikini Bottom, and that goes for almost every level. In the next level, downtown Bikini Bottom, you can actually see a crazy amount from the top of the Sea Needle. You can look out and see Gula Goon, Kelp Forest, and the Sand Mountains, which is amazing. It makes the whole world feel more connected and like an actual experience that you can explore.
But even more spooky is that if you're standing in downtown Bikini Bottom at the perfect angle at the perfect time, you'll notice that SpongeBob has another neighbor. A neighbor that we've never seen before. But who could it be? Why haven't we seen this neighbor? There is only one answer. It's because SpongeBob killed his neighbor, tried to cover it up, took Doodlebob's pencil, erased his neighbor from existence, but forgot one tiny thing. The fact that you could still see it. Still see a brief after image. From downtown Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob the murderer. The mystery. We may never know what happened to SpongeBob's neighbor.
We interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
But they said your mom was ugly.
Now, moving through downtown Bikini Bottom, we have to find some stolen steering wheels for Miss Puff. This is also the first time we get to use Sandy, and I have to say I'm a bit upset she didn't get a nice intro like Patrick did. You kinda just hop up to the bus stop and change into her, nothing special. Also, I noticed while flying around here, why are SpongeBob and Patrick's pants hanging all over the city? Is this a show joke I'm missing, or do the downtown people just do SpongeBob and Patrick's laundry for them? Alongside shiny objects and golden spatulas are Patrick's socks, which are scattered around the world and you have to collect them to bring them back to him for rewards. And it's kind of funny that at some points you have to use Patrick to collect Patrick's socks just to give them back to Patrick. He's such a clown. Kind of wish he said some different lines though when you give him his socks back, cause this "I don't speak Italian" line gets really old really quick. Next is Gula Goon, which, you know, there's not too much to say about it. They did a fantastic job though designing this level compared to Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. It looks so much better in comparison and actually reminds me of the TV show. And you know, there's also a giant sandcastle, so that's pretty cool. Now that we have enough spatulas, we can fight our first main boss, a giant robot Sandy. She's a decently tough fight, but I have to say, I think these boss fights go on a little too long sometimes, but maybe that's just me. The mechanics and character interactions in these fights are great, and I always love Patrick's enthusiasm to get into the fight and start beating people up. Once Sandy is defeated, we can venture into the next part of Bikini Bottom, which unlocks a few more levels, including Rock Bottom, Sand Mountains, and the Mermalair. We can also venture into the police station, which lets us see a biography of all the enemies we've found so far, and we can also enter Sandy's tree dome. You can tell how much love they put into this game just by seeing that they actually made a different character model for when SpongeBob is in the tree dome. This model is only used when in the tree dome, and you're only in here very briefly, so it's crazy that they made the effort to make this model instead of just slapping a bowl over the normal model. God, that is one gross looking face though. Ugh. Welcome to Rock Bottom, and wait a minute, rewind that. I never noticed, but that dude pisses himself. Anyways, welcome to Rock Bottom, and oh no, is back, and holy crap, she wants us to steal art from a museum for her. There are a lot of tiny details in this level I never noticed as a kid. One detail I did notice and love though is that if you cross this street and go to the vending machine, the bus from the TV episode actually shows up and drives away quickly, which is a fantastic nod to the TV show. The rest of the level is pretty straightforward. It's not my favorite level, but it has its ups and downs. This part where you have to use the rolling SpongeBob to get across small bridges really fast is a pain in the ass. And crossing these gaps with Sandy while Mr. Aimbot McGee over here destroys me can get really annoying as well. Thankfully, the next level is much better, the Mermalair. First off though, I noticed something while hitting this TV while recording. Once in a while, a picture would briefly show up on the screen, but I could never get it to stop on that picture, so I was really interested in what it could be, and I have no idea what it is. I still haven't seen it because I've written the script and I'm currently recording the dialogue, but I won't see what it is until I start editing, so we're looking at this at the same time, guys, and I hope it's interesting. It looked kind of funny, so we'll see how this plays out. The Mermalair is a really fun level. It has you traveling around, finding little nods to the Mermaid Man episodes, like the invisible boatmobile and a mini-boss fight with Prawn. I mean, I would have preferred a fight with, like, Man Ray, but Prawn is cool too, I guess. But what this level also has is the worst part of this game ever.
And I know for a fact, a 120% guaranteed fact, that you guys out there that have played this game know exactamungo what dumbalongni, I made that word up right now, I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm upset about. You know. Ugh.
Yeah, this dumb Rube Goldberg contraption bullshit for this golden spatula is extremely annoying. It requires a ton of trial and error when doing it the first time and takes forever, especially this stupid wooden tilting board at the end that's pretty random, and then after finally getting it past, I forgot I had one last thing to do and ended up screwing up and having to redo the whole thing again. Also, who did the voice for Mermaid Man? Because they did a really bad job of it. It sounds like someone who's acting really badly and just yelling at the same time for some reason. The most interesting level in the game, though, has to be Sand Mountain, which is just a collection of downhill racing segments, which is pretty cool, but I don't know how I feel about this level, to tell you the truth. It's not the best, and it's definitely not one of my favorite levels, and it can get pretty frustrating at times to get past. For example, there's a very hard challenge on Flounder Hill, which requires you to break all the snowmen. Sandman? Snowman? I don't know. I mean, it's a sand mountain, so they're made of sand, so I guess they'd be... Anyways, you have to go down this mountain perfectly at least 3 times, and if you fall off at all or die, all of the Sandman get reset, and you have to start over again. And then, after completing it, the reward from this, you may be asking, is just one of Patrick's sock. I was kind of expecting a golden spatula from all the trouble I had to go through for this, but I guess 1/10 of a golden spatula is just as good of a reward. The second boss you'll end up fighting is a robot Patrick, and everything I already said about the Sandy fight applies to this one as well. Great fight, great communication between the characters. Fight feels a bit long, that's about it, and let's move on to the final area, which includes the Dutchman's Graveyard, Kelp Forest, and SpongeBob's Dreams. That's a weird one. You can also enter the Krusty Krab, which has a little battle royale thingy, I guess, and Plankton's Chum Bucket, but that leads to the final boss, so more on that later. The Flying Dutchman's level is the first level, I would say, where things actually get really challenging. The enemies are relentless, and the platforming can get pretty hard at times. Like, how did I get past this as a kid? One great thing about this level is that it really encompasses how bad Revenge of the Flying Dutchman is. This level has a much better layout, more challenging enemies, a better design for the Dutchman's Graveyard with more ghostly ships broken all over the place, and a green goo lake instead of the weird lava choice that they had in the other game. The mini-boss fight with the Flying Dutchman here is also better than the final boss from the Flying Dutchman game. Everything in this level surpasses the final level from Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, and I would say this isn't even the best level in Battle for Bikini Bottom. Sadly though, we have to move on from that great level to one of the levels I actually hate in this game. Probably one of the only levels I would say I despise. Kelp Forest. Oh geez, Miss Puff. Oh, you scared the crap out of me. What's that? You lost a bunch of kids in the forest and want me to go find them? Alright, fine, will do. Credit where it's due. The atmosphere of this level is great, but the design of it in general is just horrible. There's just too much all over the place, and way too many bouncing platforms that you have to traverse over. Also, this point where you have to get 3 tiki heads to open the way to this spatula in the next area, I was never able to find out how to get that tiki on the left as a kid, and even now while playing the game again, I still couldn't figure it out. So I just stack both these tikis here, jump on them, and skip over that part. Screw you, game, I do what I want! Just to be clear, while editing this, I did go ahead and look up exactly how I was supposed to do the tiki thing. And I guess there's a button on the other side of the map, all the way on the other side of the map, that you're supposed to hit. That opens up another platform to help you bounce across. That I just happened to never notice. Never going over there, never saw it.
I stand by my point. I still hate this puzzle, but I will admit when I'm wrong. Either way, back to the video.
That's not even the worst part though. This whole next segment in Kelp Caves is horrible. It's bad. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use the word atrocious. Remember at the start of the video where I said you will pretty much always have a bus stop when you need to change characters? Well, throw that out the window for this part a little bit. You still have a bus stop, but in this area, it requires you to constantly run down a hallway, activate a switch as Patrick, run back, switch to SpongeBob, then run back, hit another switch, then run back and switch to Patrick again, and rinse and repeat. And every time it takes longer to get back to the character swap area because you get further and further into the area. And there is a nice shortcut after a while, but the backtracking even with the shortcut is still pretty decent and makes this area a nightmare to get through without dying from boredom. The last level of the game is really interesting though, and I really like what they did with this one. We have SpongeBob falling asleep in the middle of the street, definitely a good lesson for kids. And then you get to visit everyone's dreams, which is pretty fun. Sandy has a slide level over Texas where everything's really big and there's trucks of crap everywhere for some reason. I never got that. Maybe it has to do with cow dung or something. Whatever. Squidward has an area where you need to travel across music notes that play badly out of tune sounds. Mr. Krabs has a fight arena that takes place on a grill surrounded by Krabby Patties. And my favorite is Patrick's Dream, which is just him in a dark room, and to get the spatula here, you just have to find where Patrick hid it. I think you can tell it was a pretty easy spatula to find. And after all that, we just have our final boss fight level in the Chum Bucket. After entering, we find out Plankton was the bad guy, obviously enough, but due to his own mistakes, a robot version of himself has taken over control of all of the robots, including a giant robot SpongeBob. And it's our job to end this once and for all. This boss fight is a pretty difficult one that lasts a little too long once again with some drawn out phases. But I do enjoy this fight, and after getting through it, we enter inside the robot and break him apart piece by piece, while also fighting with Robot Plankton. And after a few cruise missiles to Robot SpongeBob's brain, we finish him off and save the day. The Plankton robots end up fighting each other after they've duplicated themselves, and the real Plankton ends up getting stepped on like usual. There's also this really adorable cutscene of SpongeBob and all of his friends singing and dancing to the theme song of the TV show if you finish the game 100%. And if you collect a ton of shiny objects, 40,000 to be exact, you can open up the theater and look at some concept art for the game, which is both a very nice reward for beating the game 100% and grinding a bit after beating the game if you still want more to do. And that's the end of the journey for Battle for Bikini Bottom, a surprisingly long video for a fantastic game, and I have to say, I'm really excited for SpongeBob Rehydrated to release. I cannot wait to play it, I cannot wait to review it for you guys. It is going to be a great experience, hopefully. Hopefully, we'll never know, until it comes out, and then we'll know. But until then, you have the rest of this retrospective to look forward to. Next video will be on the movie game, which I am really excited to look into. It's been a while since I played it. I've completely forgotten about everything in it, so I have a lot to look forward to. And until then, I'll see you all in the next video.